Hello, everybody. I'm Aryuna Radnaeva, and I'm going to present my topic on the research proposal, how do ego networks shape perception of ethnic identity? So, research on identity usually focuses only on how an individual perceives themselves and what cultural practices support their identity. Most research on ethnic identity focus on the perception of individual inclusion in ethnic community. But in this study, um, identity reflects in the communities and in which an individual consists. So it will be interesting to understand how individual can interact with this, how individuals' circles of interaction could influence the perception of ethnic identity. So the main idea of the research design is based on the ethnic identity formation on the base of his interaction networks. And the main research question is how the ethnic identity of Korean migrants is formed and changed within the social interaction. So the empirical object is the Soviet Korean youth. The reason why this exactly group of minorities was chosen is that since this ethnic group does not have historical origin on the territory of USSR, it was forced to assimilate with the surrounding community. So such historical context has dual position of ethnic identity. So on the one hand, there may be a fading perception of one's belonging to such Korean ethnic group, but on the other hand, reverse movements may be formed in order to perceive the significance of ethnic identity. As for theoretical framework, the research will be carried out in the framework of a relativistic approach, where the interpretation of human actors from the point of view of the intersubjective context of a relation is proposed, and then the structures of interaction arise from relations. For instance, Harrison White offers an understanding of actors, actions, and social relationships through an analysis of the emergence and formation of identities, relationships, and related structures. He believes that identity arises through the relationships, and using his terminology, actors constantly switch between different network domains. So individuals use discursive interaction or narrative that other participants endow with their own meanings, and such discursive interaction are open to the interpretation through telling the story of identity. Individuals build relationships. As for the empirical object, during the Soviet Union, ethnic Koreans became part of a new community, Soviet Koreans. So this group, ethnic Koreans, crossed the border of the Russian state and settled in the Far East, mainly in Vladivostok. However, the repressive policy of the 30s affected the majority of Soviet Koreans, forcing them to leave the Far East and move to the countries of Central Asia. And at the moment, the majority of ethnic Soviet Koreans live in Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, and Russia. And far eastern regions is the most populated in Russia. Um, the ethnic identity of representatives of modern Korean youth is formed by cultural context um, of living in different republics of the Soviet Union. For instance, researcher Natalia Lee was formed a typification of ethnic identity of Koreans, identifying them to three main groups, such as Sakhalin Koreans, Asian Koreans, and Russian Koreans. So Sakhalin Koreans are described as the most closely connected to the with the country of origin, and to this group, this group has the strongest ethnic identity from her point of view. The next group is Asian Koreans. So this is a group of immigrants, some people who arrived to Russia from Central Asia. Um, and she describes that their identity is blurred as the process of socialization was carried out in a more heterogeneous environment. And the last group is Russian Koreans. This is a group of Koreans who were born and raised in Russia, and they are mostly integrated into Russian culture than in Korean one. And again, regarding the empirical object, um, the empirical object of the study is the representatives of Korean youth who are also migrants of the second or third generation after being deported from far east. To study the formation of ethnic identity among representatives of Korean youth was chosen mixed methods to understand, in order to understand, on the one hand, the formation of ethnic identity, and on the other hand, the value of interaction. So there are going to be two main stages. First of all is biographical interviews, and then the EGONET analysis, when the informant indicates in the main circle of their interactions, and interviews are conducted with the and as a result, I hope that we're gonna get the structure of social interactions in EGO networks, which can be analyzed deeply uh, in qualitative and quantitative forms. The main image of the result is the structure of social interaction, which could be explained in the positions of ethnic identity in the context of other identities that are reflected in the environment of the ego, the main informant. So this structure will be functions in ego network, which will allow us to look at the phenomenon of identity from the perspective of network approach. Using the analysis of such structural holes in the network, we can make assumptions about the manifestation of information of ethnic identity, as well as compare strategies of building connections in this network. So this is the main references, and thank you for watching. I will be glad if you will have some questions or maybe some ideas how to develop this study. Thank you again.